listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Let's talk music. I am here with Teague Gilo. Hi, Teague.
Hi. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice of you to join me. So, normally when I have people on the show, I tell them to tell us a little bit about who they are and also what they do. And in a lot of cases, what they do is not really who they are, but I think yours is a little more closely tied. So I'm going to have you tell us what it is you do.
Well, I am a cellist, but more specifically, I would say I'm like an improv cellist. And that basically means that I play without music in front of me, and I play off what I hear. So a lot of what I practice is just me listening to music and then trying to create a melody or a harmony that creates interest and adds to the overall piece. So that's what I do. Okay.
And that, I guess, in a way, is also who you are, because you sort of breathe this. This is what you do. You really enjoy this, and I could see it. So a little background of how we connected. I actually went to a performance of yours locally, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And you had mentioned a number of times that you were sort of kind of improving and sort of feeling the notes and things, and I just thought that was one of the neatest ways to play.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it certainly motivates me to work on my instrument and work on my art every day. When I play something that I think is cool and innovative, usually I'll get like I will get goosebumps, or the hair on the back of my neck will stand up, and that to me is like the coolest feeling ever. I really feel good when I am able to create that, and so I guess that's just I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically that's sort of what guides me, or that's what sort of calls me to keep on working and try and create something new and interesting that that maybe I can connect with other people. So
yeah, and I would imagine, as somebody who creates things myself, I would imagine that with most people who consider themselves creatives, that feeling is sort of something that they strive for, and something that once they find and they feel, they want it again and again.
Right. Certainly, that is certainly the case. I'm usually, if I'm not like practicing, I like to look for new music and try and find new genres that I think would be suitable to have a cello play over. And so I have a giant library of music that goes from like hip hop and rap to like maybe country even. Not very many country, but I guess sorry, I kind of lose myself midway through the sentence. I feel like I'm doing a bad job in the interview process, because I mean, I don't.
No,
I'm gonna be straight with you here. I don't have tons of interactions other than with my parents and with my instruments. So hopefully I'm not.
In fact, I think you're doing fine, and I think if you want to give shorter answers, feel free to give shorter answers. I mean, it's perfectly fine, and
that's a good
I give
idea.
you as much space or as little space as you'd like. And
okay.
Just before, yeah.
Oh, and also I might be going.
Give what you need to, and do.
Well, I just wonder if I'm going through like just recording anxiety, because I was recording earlier today, trying to create some interesting stuff that I would later send to you, so that it could go along with my with the interview, but. And every time that I do it, I end up recording and deleting for hours because it's so hard to say exactly what you want to say, exactly how you want to say it. So I guess I end up just sort of tripping over myself and overcomplicating or overthinking things.
Boy, is that interesting that you said that, because the whole reason that you and I connected was because we said two sentences to each other that were flipped around. And it's so interesting in that. So for everyone, a little background. When you were playing at the end of almost every song, you almost apologized. You were sort of self-defacing. You said, I hope that was okay, and this and this, and you were you made a joke, and you said that the dissonance that people heard was actually supposed to be flair, and you just said it was the dissonance as flair. And so I immediately turned back to you, and because I thought you were so good at what you were doing, I said, well, then you have a flair for dissonance. And I wrote that down, and that turned into the podcast. So as of this recording, I've already done that podcast because I wasn't sure if you and I could connect, and I knew you might not have had a lot of time because I think you were going back to Spain.
Yeah.
So just to be safe, because I'm like that, I did the podcast, a 10-minute podcast about that, and I talked all about how hitting the wrong notes might not be such a terrible thing. Because first of all, listening to you hitting the quote-unquote wrong notes was really fun. I mean, especially if you kind of knew the song, it kind of took you in slightly different directions that you may not have expected. So for me, it was a more enjoyable experience than if you had gotten every note robotically correct. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I've done a couple podcasts on how people get this paralysis by analysis, in which they think maybe they're not so good. And in fact, what's really funny is last week's podcast is literally called "Does This Suck?" And it's all about how if you're creative, you take a step back every so often and you go, man, does this suck? Because you question yourself, and you do that because you care, and you do that because you're pretty good at it. Because if you sucked at it all the time, you wouldn't even think that way. So people who are creative and striving to do good sometimes do that a little too much. And there's this middle ground between doing it way too much and being completely tone deaf, no pun intended, to what you're doing. And so I think that's probably what you did with the music that you were going to send me, and so forth. So it's really interesting that last week, before I even met you, I did the "Does This Suck?" And so I think that's very applicable to what we're talking about here. Yeah. I do hope that by the time that we're all done, and by the time that I get this up on Sunday and people are hearing it, that I do get a little bit of music from you, as horrible as you may think it is, so that it can be playing in the background. So hopefully people right now are hearing it in the background, if the time travel thing's working. So
sure.
I hope that made sense. I normally don't ramble like that, but because you had said you didn't mind giving shorter answers, I thought I would fill that in a bit.
Yeah, no, that's good. I definitely prefer to listen anyway, and I will share when I have something that I think would be interesting.
Yeah, and I think people will probably find you far more interesting than they find me. So having said that, just before we started, and I typically don't talk a lot with people before we have the podcast, because I actually, if I've considered that they're interesting enough to talk to, I figure we'll say all the fun stuff live. You said something very interesting just before we went live, and that is that, and you kind of reiterated that you're normally a very sort of introverted person. You spend a lot of hours working and practicing and so forth. So this is a little bit of a stretch for you to sort of hang out and chat with me, correct?
Yeah, a little bit. I am sweating quite a bit, actually, but that's you don't get to see that or smell that, so just
no, but you did share it, so I appreciate that. I like that we're sharing. That's important. But I think you might be comforted a little bit by the fact that a lot of people that you think are like super extroverted either aren't, or they get a weird exchange of energy. For me, for example, I get a lot of energy from like interacting with people, but I also get drained. So even though it's kind of really fun and exciting, like something like this, if I'm up all day, meaning on all day talking with people, I'm very happy to go home and sit in my pajamas and just watch TV and things and just kind of recharge. And I think people, more people are that way than they think. And because we're sold on like watching TV and commercials and stories and everything, and how everybody goes out there and does their thing. Well, I think as balanced people, we need to have that alone time and that me time. And your me time is more of like you and your instrument time, right?
Yeah, well, my instrument's not going to tell me I play bad, so. And I mean, most people won't tell me that anyway, but like, it's always just like a thought that I have, or like a just a part of my brain, the shadow part that always is there telling me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, and so it's kind of like this war that goes on in my head, and I'm sure with a lot of other people it's the same way, that they sort of struggle with adequacy and feeling adequate, and then also it doesn't help that like the world that we live in is very competitive, and that's how we are raised. We're raised to compare ourselves to others with grades or with standardized testings and stuff, and that's awful in my opinion. It just doesn't feel good to have to sort of quantify what's better and what isn't. And I think, well, just kind of going on a tangent, I think that's what kind of pushed me towards music, is that I felt like it was a more qualitative thing where even like the best musicians were able to play like garbage, because even if they were doing something technically brilliant, it just didn't sound good, and it didn't feel like it had feeling or soul. So I don't know, that was just something interesting that I thought, and that I'm trying to get away from just as a musician, I guess. So.
Right, and I think that's sort of your signature, is that you're very cognitive of the fact that the art part of music is really important versus the technical part of it.
Right.
And I think you really shine a spotlight on that in the way you perform. And I thought I'd never really heard of that, and I'd never really seen that or heard and seen it. And I just thought it was such a neat thing. And anyone who would listen to you would never doubt your ability. And they would be a little shocked to hear you say what you just said. And yet there are people who are famous actors, people that are just absolutely gorgeous models and things. You read their life story later and you find that they looked in the mirror and they didn't like what they saw.
Yeah.
Because we really are our worst critic, because we see ourselves constantly. We never give ourselves a break because we're always there. And short of what you said, which is, we're always competitive, and basically people are trained to take tests. People are trained to get good at testing because it's a grading thing versus, well, overall, do you have a passion for this, and do you like it even? I mean, we don't really think in those terms, and we are hyper competitive. We absolutely are. And with the advent of social media, this hyper competitiveness is like an always on. I mean, people are even competing with like, what did you have for dinner? Well, here's 20 pictures of it on Instagram,
Yeah.
Just like people go on vacation and they take all these shots, these composed shots, but they're miserable, or they're fighting, or, it rained 3 days, but they got 3 shots off when the sun was out. And that's all we see on our little feeds, so it's really easy to be brainwashed into thinking that life is perfect and we have to be better versus just, I guess, different. And if you like what you do, you like it. And I think at the gathering that you were at, I think you brought quite a bit of joy to the people there. They nobody seemed to fall asleep.
No, they were all nice.
Yeah, they were very. We clapped quite a bit, and we really enjoyed. I was disappointed that you weren't able to find a rap song, because I really wanted to hear that. That sounded so interesting.
Well, I'll send you a rap song later, because that'll be fun for me. I really enjoy raps.
Oh. And I loved your upbeat stuff. You started with some really upbeat stuff, and that was really fun for me. And then the audience all asked for like these really slow songs. I didn't speak up. I was like, oh, okay, fine. But the upbeat stuff was really neat. I mean, I know nothing of music, but I know like composers like Bach and so forth, where some of them are more mathematical, and there were far more notes. I think those are the ones I kind of enjoy more, and I think you were really going at it in the beginning. And I know going at it is not a musical term, but I think you were really flying, and it was such a neat thing to watch and to listen to too, because your improv update rate of your brain must be really on high if you're playing something fast.
Yeah. I don't really know like what it, or I could never really tell you all the notes that I'm playing, but just because I go by intervals basically.
Okay.
And every key has like some common intervals usually that are like the most common, or like in a standard it's like 1 4 and 5 for like the first, the subdominant, and the dominant. And so just like usually with just those 3 chords or whatever, and maybe like an extra chord put in there, you can basically play the notes of that song all the way through and be correct, right? But so a lot of what I guess my improv, and especially when I go faster and stuff, is I'm just adding a lot of extra notes, a lot of passing notes, and like the words are coming to me in Spanish right now, so sorry if I'm not and just a lot of grace notes and a lot of extra fluff, I guess. Although I wouldn't want to call it fluff. I mean, I'd like to think that every note that I play adds something to the songs. So
Right. And let's back up to what you just said, because I was going to touch on that as well. So you speak Spanish and English.
Yes.
And are you originally from Spain?
No, I'm from here. I'm from Milwaukee.
Okay.
Born in Shorewood, raised in Wauwatosa. I'm currently living in Racine. But I went to Spain for a year abroad in high school, and then I went back to study a 4-year degree at a college in Spain, because I enjoyed my time there. And then eventually I left college, and I left college. I didn't graduate. I left, and I went to a conservatory, also in Spain. So, and that's what I did. They do it a little bit differently there. There's like 6 years of the professional school, and then there's the 4-year like superior conservatory, which is like the equivalent of getting a master or a degree in performing arts, basically.
Okay.
And so I did the 6 years. I did those in like a condensed version, because I've been playing before. So I did a condensed 6 years, and then I just finished the 6th year, and this year I was hoping to to get into this the Conservatorio Real in Madrid, Spain. But that didn't happen for me, so I'm gonna be going back to Spain and working on selling my product, or selling what I do, my improv and my and just my playing for events, cafes, restaurants, weddings, just sort of freelance, I guess.
Right. And so with the sort of advent of technology and so forth, is it still kind of the gig where people come by and you sell CDs, or how does that work then?
Well, up until this point, the most money that I usually make is just through leaving my case open, and I get tips, and generally speaking, people are very generous. So that's like the main source of income that I am getting right now. I mean, and I do some like farmers markets, and those are like paid gigs as well. So I make the tips plus whatever is being paid initially. Mm-hmm. And so basically this year trying to like monetize my products. I was planning on going to restaurants and just seeing if they would like, for 2 hours, if I would just play in there out on the patio or somewhere, and then hopefully get like a flat rate for or like just a paid per hour type thing, and then also tips on the side.
Nice.
And it's here in Wisconsin, I would say it's lucrative because I don't have any of my own expenses, because I still live with my parents here. But in Spain, it's a different story. I have I have a monthly rent, I have food costs, I have travel costs, and so it's kind of scary, because this is all happening like this year for me. And I'm excited, but I'm also like, I have that fear that, well, what if nobody wants me? What if I go to 1,000 restaurants and 1,000 say, oh no, we're fine. Which I know that's ridiculous, and at least one of them will say, yeah, we'd love you to come play Fridays from 7 to 9. And I don't know, so that's...
Well, that sounds terrifyingly exciting, actually. It sounds like something that's really frightening but exciting at the same time.
Right, because
And-
I'm going to be putting myself out there.
Right, exactly. And that takes quite a bit. I mean, it takes quite a bit for someone to be able to do that, to say, I have a product, I have a skill, I'm going to go see how I can make a living just selling this skill.
Exactly. That's what I want.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and that's really the ultimate. I think anybody who's listening and is an entrepreneur, they know exactly what you're talking about. Anybody who's a creative, somebody who paints and sculpts and so forth, they know exactly. There are a lot of people who are closet sculptors and closet painters that have their normal day-to-day job and wish they could just go off on their own and just sell their art. So that's a big deal that you're taking that step, and I think that's wonderful.
Right, and cello, for just the cello alone is just such a difficult just a very difficult instrument to play. So I've been playing for maybe since second grade, and I'm 25 now, so I guess like 15 or so years, 14 years. I don't know. A long time. I've been playing for a long time, and I've been playing seriously maybe for 5 years. So I've been with the cello for a long time, but even so, I still struggle with stuff that I think should just be there already. Like I sometimes I wish that the cello had frets, because tuning on any stringed instruments or any fretless stringed instruments is just it's so precise. You have to be perfect within a millimeter, or you're gonna sound sour. Or
And for the people who aren't musically inclined or aware, what can you tell us what a fret is?
A fret, when you look at a guitar, for instance, those little lines on the neck of the guitar, those are frets. And basically, how they work is that when you push your finger down, the string pushes against the fret. So no matter where you put your finger within the two frets, or the fret, or within the fret, you will always get that same note, and you can be off by at least a centimeter, and it's still gonna sound fine. And that really makes playing in tune for the guitar like a piece of cake.
Okay.
Not the same if you have like a fretless bass or any stringed instrument, like any orchestral stringed instrument. That's usually a lot harder.
So there aren't these breakpoints in which as long as you're above the breakpoint on the instruments that have the frets, then you're getting the benefit of being right at the breakpoint. But if there's no such thing as a breakpoint, you have infinite control over where you are, essentially.
Yeah, and there's like you have a lot more, or a greater chance to mess it up. But at the same time, I think you have a lot better. You're able to be more expressive, and you're able to do more with the note. And you can do these really cool and really nasty slides, and I mean nasty in like a good way.
Right, like Janet Jackson nasty. Right?
Yeah, that kind of nasty. So I feel like they're like with the cello and with the violin and viola, you have like this almost complete freedom of how you wanna bend and move your sound that is limited in some other instruments. And I mean, all instruments have their strengths, but I think that the strings instruments, they just have this ability to create this this really just and I guess words don't really do justice to this, but just this big, robust, full, unencumbered sound that for me is just the most beautiful sound in the world. So, and I might be biased, but
well, I think it's so resonant. I mean, it's just such an amazing thing that just one instrument, this unpowered, unplugged instrument, is producing so much resonance. It's amazing. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's nice because I don't need to like lug around an amplifier or anything. Usually, whenever I go do gigs, because the cello by itself it's loud. It's a noisy boy.
It's very. And now, speaking of this particular cello, can you tell us where you got this from?
Yeah. So my cello is my grandma's cello, and we didn't know that she played cello. I didn't know that she played cello. None of us knew that she played cello. And so I mean, I started playing cello without knowing. And later, going through my grandparents' attic, my parents found it, and it was like, whoa, that's handy because I play the cello. So they refurbished it, and now that's the cello I'm using while I'm here in the States. It sounds really good. If you're listening to like a recording behind this, hopefully you'll hear what I mean.
Right.
So that's kind of neat. It's a German cello. It's like it was made in 1912, I think. So it's 100 some years old. It's a lot older than me.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people can say that the main tool that they use is over 100 years old. That's pretty neat.
That's true, but I got very lucky with everything basically, because there's not like nobody, and I like nobody is in my situation in as good of a situation as I am to be able to pursue just exactly what I like, how I like it on my terms. Like it's very few people that have the sort of like opportunities that I have, which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair to everybody else, but I mean, I won the womb lottery, so it's not like I can ask for less.
Right. I mean, I think you're completely ignoring your skill. I mean, you're saying that you're lucky, and then yes, you're lucky, and I'm sure your circumstances are such that you can do this and you are pursuing something. But if you didn't have any skill, you couldn't do this at all.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, I was empowered to create the skill through like the support that I have in my life. Like the only reason that I'm able to study my cello for like 5 to 8 hours a day is because I have people that believe in me, that are financing me, my parents. Like they give me the time so that I can just pursue my passion, which is I don't think everyone gets to do that. I know everyone doesn't get to do that.
Well, that's very true, and I think the ease at which people are able to be supportive, and I don't know your parents and your support group, but I'm saying in my own personal experience and what I see, the ease of being able to support somebody is directly proportional to how hard it looks that they're working. I mean, if you are giving it your all and you are practicing 6 or 8 hours a day, then I think it feels more right to be able to support someone like that versus someone who says, I'm gonna be the next, Stephen King, and I'm gonna write, and then somebody writes like for an hour a day and they kind of give up and they're staring out the window. Well, that's a little different, I think, versus applying yourself. So I think they kind of go hand in hand, and I think it's really neat.
Yeah. Well, hopefully with some gumption and just walking and going to and visiting a lot of restaurants and a lot of cafes and a lot of other kinds of venues, I will be able to create that financial independence that I so desire. So,
and certainly experience, so that regardless of how it shakes out, you'll 2 or 3 years from now, you will have a very different experience than you have now. You'll have done it. You'll have crossed that line.
That will be sweet. We can do an interview then, and I'll tell you how I feel.
I would love to do a follow-up. I hope we can do that. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which city do you have a city in mind you're going to?
Oh, I'm going to Madrid. I've been in Madrid for the past couple years. It's a beautiful city, and a lot of tourists and whatnot. So, as a street musician and as someone that likes to busk, that's a pretty good option for me.
Busk, as in B-U-S-K?
Yeah, B-U-S-K. That's whenever a street musician is out there with their hat or their case open, that's busking.
Oh. We've learned yet another word.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I hope your busking goes quite well, and I hope your case becomes full very quickly.
Me too.
I think that's really neat. Have you played any other instruments, or has it always been the cello?
I mean, I guess I started playing piano, and I played guitar for a couple weeks, but I never got into it. I never practiced, and I never practiced with the cello either. And I guess I really only started practicing cello when I actually realized you could play more than just this classical stuff that was written by written a long time ago by someone that's not relevant to me right now. And I guess I didn't even think that I would want to be a musician until I realized that I could just make it up with my favorite tunes and create these new and fun new ideas and new takes on material that's relevant to me right now. So
Yeah, it's very cross genre. I mean, the way that you do it is it's very interesting. I mean, it's not boring, and it's not sort of one-sided. And I think that's what keeps it kind of fresh and interesting, because you not only do covers of recent songs and all sorts of different genres, but you also go back to the classics and so forth too. And I think your performance when I saw you was about 2 hours, and those 2 hours just blinked by. It was amazing.
Oh, wow. Nice. High praise. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. It's very true. And I hope people, in whatever situation you're going in Madrid, people can hear you sort of fly through a number of different songs, and because they'll probably be much more captivated, instead of going, oh, he's playing that's nice. Because for you to make these 90-degree turns that you make musically, I think is what really can keep people's interest.
Right. I try not to play too much of the same genre, one after the other. I think there's and this, I mean, you see this reflected in old music too. Like when Bach did his 6 suites, and when a lot of people write their suites, there's a structure to them. There's the prelude, the Allemande, the Courant, the saraband, and the gigue, and all of them are in theory supposed to be completely different from the one that you just played before. So you cycle through these different styles and energies. And that's kind of the same thing that I try and do with the jams, by always, or if I'm gonna play something sappy and romantic, well, the next thing I want to play is gonna be angry and full of rap words, or it's gonna be rap or something. So I like to keep it. I guess I like to keep it tastefully weird. Is the term I'm kind of liking right now.
Right. I heard you say that, and I wanted to make a T-shirt on that. And I think what you're describing is a lack of fatigue. So when people listen to that, they're far less likely to get any kind of fatigue from listening when it jumps around like that. And I don't mean jump. It doesn't do it justice for me to call it jumping around. Clearly, there's a method to your madness in the way that you do that.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to find opposites, and I mean, it's all sort of relative or subjective in music. But I mean, music is emotion, so you can sort of find songs that have polar emotions, and sort of create this roller coaster, I guess, of emotion. Whereas in one song we're happy and skipping along, and the next we're sad and not getting out of bed. So
right. And I think when you do it the way that you did it, at least when I heard you, I think that's such a neat thing. And I think if people knew that they were going to have that kind of experience musically, they'd be far more likely to actually show up for it.
Yeah.
I mean, but it might be kind of hard to describe, because if you just say, I'm jumping around, okay, you're just covering a lot of things. But it's more than that. And I think that's probably part of the art too, is knowing what to go into next, because you sort of feel this sort of winding path versus these 90-degree turns. But what do I know?
Well, what do I know? Because I mean, I guess I'm just with the improv and with the jams and stuff. I can't tell you why or what is the theory behind what it is that I'm doing. I just do what I feel is what I feel is correct. It's all sort of like a instinctual or like a gut feeling. Which I mean, it's different from what a lot of other classical musicians are doing, because generally speaking, like classical musicians are just trained to play exactly what's on the page, uh, exactly how it is, how the composer wants it to be played. And I don't think, or I don't hear of a lot of cellists or violinists. There are some for sure, but that's not the norm to see violinists and cellists doing like freestyle jazz type improvisations.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind
I
of,
think if you were to ask someone who wrote fiction, you would probably encounter something similar to what you just said, in which there are, there are rules of dialogue, there are rules of structure, there are rules of first and second and third act.
mm-hmm.
But there are also people who write fiction and they just do it. And they just say, well, because this just felt right. And it's a much more complicated and complex thing than it just felt right, because there's a structure in place that you can feel, but you can't describe, but you just do it.
Right.
And it kind of comes out that way again. So people say, oh, I see your style. And I think maybe we end up calling that structure style eventually, because it's just the way things replicate.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, maybe I haven't convinced you, but at least it makes logical sense in my brain, at least, so at least for writing, it makes a lot of sense that way. So,
Right.
So normally what I do in these chats is I also give people sort of an ability to give a shout out. And typically, if somebody's a business, then they give all their contact information. If somebody isn't, then they just they get to have a little rant or what is it. But I would love to sort of connect people with you to hire you, but you're sort of leaving soon. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I leave on Saturday.
Wow.
Going back to Spain, to Madrid. But I mean, I usually come back most summers, and I play at farmers markets. I play at the Outpost, where you saw me. I play at Washington Park Wednesdays, which is I don't play there, but I open for the main groups. So I have like 30 minutes before the main event to just play there, which is nice.
Sure.
Um,
So there's a chance that you would be back next summer. So
yeah,
summer of 2020.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, I would ask then for you to please contact me if you can, so that I can get the word out about you and make
sure.
sure that people are aware. Because I think that would be great for people to hear you.
Well, I have your email, so I will
Yes, sir.
let you know when I would be back. Because that would be
Oh,
cool
wonderful.
if people liked what I did. That would be great if they decided to come to see me play.
Oh, absolutely. And it might even be fun to, I know you sort of joked about revisiting after 5 years, but maybe it might be interesting to revisit with you, have a quick chat after you've been there for through the winter and so forth. So when you do come back, maybe we could chat again and you can tell me how that experience has, what you've learned from it.
Well, yeah, and this year is going to be a big change for me, because I was doing the conservatory last year, the year before that, and also the year before that. So
Oh,
I'm going from school to business kid
nice.
within just this year. So
Well, that's very impressive. And I appreciate your dedication to all that stuff too. And so, what I always tell people is, because I do appreciate their time, I promise not to take more than an hour. So, I want to see if you're good on time, and I wanted to just thank you, and I wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to touch on before we went away.
um well, we're good for time. We have plenty of time. I don't have to be anywhere. I mean, I guess I did, as a musician, I don't I guess I don't feel like I have a lot to say, generally speaking, about the world that I'm in, and the things that are going on. It like the idea of like an original thought, or an original or an original idea, or something like newfangled, just doesn't, like, I don't believe it. Like, it's all been done before. It's all been said before. And what I like about music is that even though we're only dealing with like 15 different notes in like a scale or in a typical scale. Even though there's notes, we've used those notes for so many, or for hundreds of years now in like a classical Western like music, that those are the notes we use. Even though there's just these 8 notes basically, or 15 with all the half steps, even with that, we've still been able to make people feel things consistently throughout for thousands of years, well, maybe not thousands, but for certainly a long time. And like even today there's music that's coming out that even though it is something that I maybe heard before, these patterns are the same, something is done slightly different that resonates with me and that moves me in a way that that just moves me in a really powerful way, and it'll give me that those tingly feels, the goosebumps.
Right.
So, and that's cool because I think that's the goosebumps are really kind of what guide me, what are like keeping me moving towards something that I consider to be truly beautiful. I know whenever I like read something that I totally agree with, or that I see as like a reflection of my perspective, I'll also get those goosebumps. So I feel like you get those when an absolute truth is voiced, or a perfect dissonance to consonance resolution is created.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
and what's cool is our lives are this big dissonance consonance like ride, basically. We're like, we can't just be consonant happy and la-ti-da all the day. That's not human nature. So we have these cycles and these times of like sadness or whatever, and just like just not motivated, not feeling inspired, not feeling driven, to then a period of high productivity and feeling of resolution, this dissonance to consonance thing. And music is just like a reflection of that. And I just think it's so cool that even well, I don't know how to put it, or I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just find that super fascinating, that that aspect of music and how it plays into our lives. And even like what I go through, doctors go through, architects go through, everybody deals with it. It's a human thing. And I guess with my music, I just want to connect with people on that human level. So.
And I think you do, and I think we just did with this as well, and I think that was very well said. So
thank you.
That's a wonderful note to end on. So I'm again going to thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy that I bumped into you, and I'm so happy you agreed to do this. And I absolutely wish you the best, and I hope we hear from you again.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's really. It's a new experience. I'll just say it was a new experience doing the interview. I mean, you're a really nice guy, an easy guy to talk to. So that helps. And you made it as painless as it could be for me. So I really appreciate that.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Thank you. I thank you for your praise. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyway.
You take care.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Sure. Hey there. Thanks for listening. You know I always appreciate your feedback, right? Well, here's your chance. You can connect with me on Instagram, via the Alchemy for Life site, or most other social media. If you like this podcast, you may love my new book, Alchemy for Life: Formulas for Success. The 239-page paperback is available on Amazon and everywhere else you get your books. All this info is available at Alchemy for Life. Thank you. See you next week.